Hi folks, I'm Brenda Paskey and welcome to part 3.5 of my 4.5 part series, The Meaning of Mulholland Drive. Last time I covered the first half of the afterlife or quasi-reality section, and now I'm going to complete that. The first part, there was a lot of mayhem. This part contains a bunch of murders. So let's dive right in. The scene opens with a shot of the corner of an office building, which seems to be missing some occupants and may soon be missing more. It zooms in on this section of 8 windows, some of which are shaded forever and some not yet.
Oh man, that's unheard of. An accident like that, who could have foreseen that, man? It's unreal, right? Yeah. Unbelievable, man.
Did you notice that when Joe says unbelievable, it sounds like he's disapproving of Ed, not agreeing with him? Ed's got his foot up on the table because he's an uncultured swine who lives in filth. He can't even make a decent espresso on that disgusting hot plate of his, even though all it would take is a Bialetti. He's got these superficial good looks with obnoxiously perfect teeth. And there he is, levering some insignificant morsel out of them. Let's translate what he's saying. I got this mere thing stuck inside my gaping orifice, couldn't get it out. And then a car accident came along and just helped me out. What a moron. I got sympathy. I got a new place to stay. I'm not in trouble. But Luigi's never going to find out.
Gee, I hope you're not gonna get into any trouble.
Oh, that was just a thing, man. But that story, that made you laugh, right?
That was a funny story, man.
Fucking car accident.
Joe relaxes against some file cabinets, spreading his wings in a pose that will become familiar. He wears the green and diamond shapes of Mr. Roque, but there are other details in this scene that make me question who he actually represents. His 2 colored eyes suggest at least 2 people. His hair is flat and limp, unlike his hair in reality. The faulty wiring draws our attention to the cigarette. He's here to smoke someone. And there's another interesting detail. Look at his nails. They're awfully pink. They're kind of shiny. Is he wearing nail polish? There it is again, shiny. Well, maybe his nails are just naturally kind of pink and shiny. If only there were another scene where we could compare what his nails look like. Ew, not very pink. They're like his sisters. Just like the hair. I think he's representing at least Diane in this scene. So anytime you see black and blue or brown and blue, you're seeing 2 people. And you have to detangle which ones they are. It's not always obvious. And I think other than these 4 scenes, this is the same scene. This is the one we're discussing, the magician, DeRosa. There may be actually another scene where somebody is representing 2 people that I missed. He's got long dark hair. He can only be Camilla. And why do I think Camilla? Because we've seen this pose before. Yeah, for sure. That's Camilla telling a tale that does not flatter him. You know, Ed does have beautiful, white, evenly spaced teeth. And in reality, Diane has kind of funny looking teeth that surely must have made her feel self-conscious. And now I feel like I keep seeing reminders of beautiful, white, evenly spaced teeth that Diane was denied because the Castiglianis simply wouldn't pay for them, even though they promised to do right by Diane. There are the 3 drawn shades, which very much remind me of number 17. So I'm thinking this conversation occurred in number 17 and is explaining why Diane reacted so badly. We see shades also half drawn at Winky's. We see them in the Mulholland Drive. And here are 2 empty chairs up front. So I feel like this scene is the conflation of no less than 4 different situations. The first is a conversation that occurred at number 17 before Camilla moved out, and it was between Diane and Camilla and caused Diane to feel differently about Camilla. The second is the 3 murders, Camilla Jr., and the cowboy. And then the third is it's a kind of a pale reflection of the murders of Luigi, the death of Adam and Adam Jr. And finally, a clue to the sad fate of DeRosa. There are a lot of clues in this scene that you probably didn't notice. A single chair. Everywhere else we see 2 chairs representing the missing children of Camilla. But here there is only one. Over here is a CRT monitor, a cathode ray tube. Now, I did mention I was older than Alaska, so I recognized it at once. Maybe the rest of you won't. It seems like an insignificant detail. However, it is not. There's the terrible faulty wiring. There is something that looks like a cowboy hat on top of Ed. A long string of keys. Notice he hides his face with his hand, much like Camilla does. The black book is there, and then this white coffee cup with a rich emblem on it, the emblem of a noble house. It looks like Ed has quite the brilliant future. It's hard to see, but you've got the shield, you've got it surmounted by something, you've got the wreath, the motto. It's also on the door here, surmounted by something, the wreath. It reminds me of this. You know, the Cenci family was also noble, but it didn't save them from incest and murder. I wonder if the Selwyns have a motto. Yes, they do. And they have a symbol of a yellow X. We know yellow is death. And we see those X's. I remember seeing those X's all over the place. And what does that motto mean? By the will of God. Well, that's a turn. For a family of murderers, they really seem to be concerned about God. I'll just drop here the coat of arms of the House of Borgia, that famous pope known for incest in his family. The daughter had one of those L names, Lucrezia, and the coat of arms combines the bull with France, Spain, and Italy, and has the papal keys. There's more details to be found in here as the camera shifts over. There's a kitchen-like area. It's blocking something. There is right here a telescope, which is something that magnifies. And here is sort of a bathrobe that kind of resembles the cowboy's jacket. Ed blabbers on, and Joe abruptly shoots him. Ed's hair sticks out in defiance of gravity. Many people are puzzled as to what this means. We will find out in the next scene. But it reminds me again of Camilla. So Ed is almost certainly Camilla. What on earth is going on with Ed's hair? I think it's pointing at something. But what? You'll notice the cowboy hat is still there. The cowboy still exists to protect Ed, although Ed is past protecting. But when he comes back from the murder of Heavyset Woman, that emblem is gone. This is what makes me think Heavyset is the cowboy. I feel like Diane thinks she's a slob, whoever she is. But we can see here what Ed's hair was pointing at. It's an adjoining door. It's blocked by the hot plate on the other side, but there is definitely a connection between these two offices. And you can see the Italian poster in there with the blood running down. It's just a big mess over there, you have to admit. This kind of reminds me of the double helix. And the dirty sign recalls this guy's dirty sign, kind of crappy sign. Mr. Gene Clean. I wonder if Gene might be the cowboy as well. As Joe drags away Heavyset, he trips on this bundle of wires. It seems an insignificant moment, but David Lynch focuses on it, so there's a reason he does that. Joe drags Heavyset into the next office and murders her. But she throws some pretty good punches there. Wow, you go, Heavyset. You know, just because you wear a dress doesn't make you a girl. This guy shows up, kind of forlorn, never says a word. And you know, when people don't talk, that usually means they have not been born yet. They are fetuses. And interesting use of reflection over here. He comes down the hall, dragging his vacuum absurdly with the long, trailing umbilical cord. Yeah, and the placenta. Just as Camilla Jr. did, she has fluttering, leading strings. And on her hand, and on her arm, she carries a little gray purse. The gray of a dead Castiglione. And again, passive, helpless, speechless. But here's the interesting thing. As he walks in, we see this odd little niche. It is a sink just built into the wall. Many people will find this very unusual. I've seen it actually a lot in older houses. I've seen it in my own grandmother's house. Before the toilet was put in, the sink was there in a corner. And this is not unusual at all in older houses, although they've usually been taken out. Up here, we see an 8. We've seen that 8 before. Here it is by the dumpster. And look at that. There's 3 thin white pipes, sort of like cigarettes. And down here, a 3rd shopping cart with what looks like a purple ribbon. Down in the bottom here, you see what looks like a fireplace grate. That's what I'm reading it as. And indeed, there is a fire. You know, it occurs to me there's another black book that is filled with names and numbers. It contains violence, cruelty, incest, near porn. Many people possess it, although I do not. And it is the Bible. And it is associated with the number 10. And I believe this gives us a clue to the final fate of DeRosa. It's sad because she chose to keep that baby because of her religion. And in the end, I think she died of it because it is very dangerous, even now, to be pregnant. Many women die of eclampsia. It causes headaches and seizures. Joe has keys behind him. There's like this green thing fairly on level with the window. There's like a white thing, two darker sets, and then you can barely see. There's a white thing down here. When Joe leaves, he takes the book. And I think he took some keys too. Here's the green. It's not online. It's moved down a little. There's the white thing. There's the other white thing. Two sections of keys are missing. Plus that Bible. Did we ever see 10? Yeah, for the 10 Commandments. Yeah. You know, if you can easily read something, David Lynch wants you to look at it and figure it out. Betty talks on the phone to her Aunt Ruth. Some of her answers seem a bit too quick for it to be an actual conversation. Notice her hand in that wisdom gesture near a picture of likely a woman in a large hat. Yeah, Luigi was making that same gesture in the boardroom after everything went to crap. Betty runs her fingers through her semi-long, fine blonde hair in proximity to a phone and notice her shirt and sweater are coming out of her pants. Well, it's harder to run your hand through your fine blonde hair when it's this short, but Mr. Darby was in proximity to a phone. And here we have original Betty dancing around with her shirt out like her daughter and that red skirt. And here is her father. Yes, her mom's brother, her uncle, Jack Selwyn. He too has his shirt flying out of his pants. And in this scene, only two people do that. And we have evidence in another scene that he is actually her dad and that he and his sister committed incest. Wally also has his shirt out in this scene, which could suggest that he thinks he might be Diane's father, and that is why he felt guilty and responsible. Betty sits up, her head in proximity to this glowing, empty, red-veined bowl. She heads down the hall to confront Rita. And she walks by this painting. Where did that come from? We've seen the painting by the door. It's not even a painting, it's an etching. But this is near the window. There's nowhere it can be. Oh, actually there is. Here's the big window. Here's where it must be. Notice she has discarded her old life on the floor behind her. Here's a very nice shot from somebody else's webpage. And you can see, yeah, there is another window in that room over here. And you know, that painting, it looks strangely familiar. Have we seen it before? Oh, yeah, there it is. And you know what? It's not hanging on the wall there. That's actually a mirror, and it's being reflected in the mirror somehow. How weird. But wasn't it odd that there were 3 mirrors in close proximity to each other in this room? Yeah, here is a magnifying glass, a crystal sort of ball next to it, and some light kind of coming in as if through cracks in the wall or some opening. This is a way to see around corners. And it was kind of set up in this scene where Rita looks at herself in the mirror, and there's a smaller magnifying mirror in which she can see the artwork behind her. So just to make this make more sense, I took this off mulhollanddrive.net, and this is the layout of Aunt Ruth's apartment, and every single line on this is really important. Here's that big window. Here's the wall where that picture is. Here's the smaller window. The bookshelves are along here. And then down in the bedroom, here's that niche. And you know what? It's another sink alcove that was reflected in the office building. It's not the only thing we need to notice. There's stairs up into the kitchen. There's stairs up into this hallway, although it's not obvious, they're briefly visible. Here's the kitchen cabinets. I'm not sure they look exactly like that, but okay. There was a back door showing here, the windows in the kitchen table, which seems to be blocking another door, the hallway, and then the bathroom with its two windows, and this little niche, which is actually for the toilet. We never see the toilet, but of course it has to be in the bathroom. But ghosts don't care about that because they don't eat, so they also don't poop. We see just the very top edge of that green toilet in one scene. So this hallway is the thing I want you to think about. Here's that door in the kitchen. You can see it is blocked by the table, much like the office where Ed's little kitchen blocked the adjoining door. And here is that hallway. Behind Betty is the doorway into the bedroom area. And I think David Lynch wants us to look at it and also note the reflecting artwork on the walls. This is only very briefly visible. Wait a minute. Oh. And here's the other end of the hallway. We know it's the other end because there's that pink plant. I think it's orchids. There's a door. There's a door there into the little sink alcove. There are two doors into that bedroom. There's a secret door over here. Let's take another look at this room. There's a single chair over here next to a TV, a cathode ray tube, just like in Ed's office. And of course, it must have wires going to it. There's probably a bunch of wires in there for Joe to trip over. We see the open suitcase with the pale blue clothes that Betty brought. Here's another look at that TV sitting innocently over there. And Betty moves this red and white item in the drawer to make room for her lingerie. So that's not the cowboy's bandana, but it sure is in the same color palette. And just to retrace a few things in the prior scene with Betty and Rita, here is Betty clutching the naked shoulder of a woman she has only just met. And what is she doing with this hand? Betty is kind of creepy. And here she is kind of taking a look at the goods, I'm telling you. And Rita's posture and her legs sort of reflect the open blue box of this suitcase. Betty confronts Rita. Notice she has a tiny golden ring on her cheap bead necklace. This is Rita clutching her head, but I want you to look at this artwork over the bed. That looks kind of bird-like. These look like bones. They probably should be bamboo. And then we have these lily pads that kind of look like the courtyard poo. Let's take a closer look. mulhollanddrive.net kind of combined two views of it. We see this is a white crane. In Chinese mythology, that would represent longevity and enlightenment. And they also have red on their heads. You can see this a little more poo-like looking. 4, 5, I only see 6, but who knows what's up here. And then there's 2 little lilies sprouting out of those lily pads. Whoever lives in this apartment likes Chinese stuff. Rita looks at the accusing mural on the closet doors. Her posture reflects the posture of one of the figures who seems to be helping someone give birth. She clutches her head. We see red streaming out from her lower body, and the expression on her face is suspicious and hurt. And the next picture is classified as a goof. It's not a goof, because suddenly there's a big red towel on the bed. Well, that's not a towel, that's a giant blood stain. She was shot here on this raised platform. This is where Camilla died. This is where the murders took place.
This is your purse. Your name must be in your purse. You want to know, don't you? Yes, but open it.
Betty kneels before Rita, murmuring, "Open it, open it." Well, open what, Betty? Oh my God. The longest unzip in history takes place, and a bunch of money appears. If you look closely at the money, it's been massively inflated. A lot of it is fake. Later, Betty will ask if Rita has any idea where it came from. Luckily, she does not know that Betty dug it out of her Aunt Ruth's mattress. And then, to the sound of funeral music, Rita pulls out the blue key. Notice the crescent moon of Diane and the triangle that points the way to a solution that was suggested all the way back at the party on Mulholland Drive. It's a reflection of this key. And there's something on that key. It's a typical key, except for one thing. That is a skeleton in a little hat. A hat is a symbol of the cowboy. So that is a skeleton key that Joe stole from DeRosa that lets him into the cowboy's apartment. Thank you, Papa Yo-Yo, for pointing out the skeleton on that key. In the next scene, we see Joe and Lainey, who is a Diane persona, and there is a fire truck in the street behind them. Somehow they are related to fire. Joe Messing, his last name, is related to fire. Helena Laney is related to light and fire. And I don't know how I missed it the first 50 times I watched the scene, but there are 3 white pillars representing Castiglianis and resembling actually cigarettes right there prominently in the foreground. Nobody's ever seen them, nobody's ever mentioned them, but there they are. And here is the shot that gives away everything. Brothers. Yes, Joe is her brother. Billy is her stepbrother. They are all related. They all wear the same jeans. They all have the blonde hair. His looks white, but when you see it in the sun, it's yellow. And back here is a fellow carrying a long, curving red pipe, which joins them all. Oh, such a wry tribute to Mon Oncle, a French film that David loved. Nope, actually, that is a bloodline. He is their father. This curving line, just like at the airport, connects these 3 siblings. No, you can't see my nipples. That's because I'm not a 12-year-old girl like Lainey. You surely noticed her naive way of talking, the fact that her stepbrother doesn't even have facial hair yet. He's too young. Normally, he has a mustache in other scenes. She smokes a cigarette in a fake, very stagey fashion we will see later. And due to the inherent sexism of society, you saw nipples and you thought prostitute rather than an abused child. Shame on you. Billy supplies the fire for Laney's cigarette a bit unexpectedly. The yellow by his head insistently reminds us that he is the driver of the yellow cab of death. And they all get in to the blue box of a van and leave together. You know what, Joe? Nobody's interested in your hot dog. And that includes the beat-up brunette you were talking about, who is actually DeRosa, not Camilla. And Diane is not going to tell you where she went. So I believe this is a representation of two separate scenes. One, the first time she asked Joe and Billy to kill someone for her who was her abusive stepfather and probably justified. The second time, though, was the murder of Camilla Jr., and the cowboy. Not so justified. Adam drives frantically, followed by a silver car, which is Shirley Wilkins. Notice how close it follows him. He's not coming home from the boardroom. He's coming home from the horrible scene behind Winky's. Cynthia calls him and urges him to come back. He insists he's going home to drown himself in the swimming pool. She tells him everybody has been fired or perhaps is on fire. We don't see Cynthia. This is reality and we don't see her. Her name has the same meaning as Diane's, actually. It's related to the moon. She really seems like a reflection of Diane. Maybe the dreams that the Castigliani had for her, that she has, many gold rings instead of just one. She has a modest necklace, non-sexy clothes. She's dressed in the clothes of Mr. Roque. Her hair is just the same as Diane's. Her lips are red. But she seems to be a nice, helpful girl, there to provide Adam whatever he might need, whatever comfort he might want. And that was their big dream for Diane. But it certainly wasn't the dream of Diane or her mother, Betty. The palm trees of Mulholland Drive, shaped in a V, change from Adam's roadway to leap amusingly from Betty's underarms. As she muses, I wonder where you were going. Well, Rita was going to Mulholland Drive. She was going to have a very nice birth. And at this point, I question if Rita is always Camilla. And maybe sometimes she is Camilla Jr. She was going to have a beautiful life, but it was interrupted. They sit on the couch, and Betty urges her to go for a walk. Okay, people are looking for her. They tried to kill Rita. There is no reason for her to be going out in public, but Betty wants to show her off because Betty just isn't very nice. Adam arrives home and replaces his golf club in the bag and looks at it. So let's look at it too. There's quite a few golf clubs here, maybe 10 or something. But the main thing is this huge thing. I'm not sure what it is or if what it is significant, but when it's missing, we'll notice. He also looks out to the pool area where there are 2 empty chairs, one blue for boy, one pink for girl, and they are empty. He pauses in front of the bedroom door, and nice reflections there. And then I'll just segue into a series of different screenshots. We first see this yellow vase, which we know means death, one hidden lily, and I don't know how many there are there, but there are 2 on one stalk, it looks like. And there are more lilies over here. There's 5 of them, and 2 of them are kind of brown, actually. There's also this clock. There's a lot of clocks and watches in this movie. I kind of watched each one carefully, but it just progresses throughout the day. I don't think there's any jury rigging of times to confuse us. And again, the half-drawn shades. Also notice the bookshelves, very similar to Havenhurst. And then we have 3 lilies in a green vase. Some eggs or possibly lemons, one lonesome little thing over here, and Adam marching around with that brown box similar to the brown briefcase that Vincenzo pulled Camilla Jr.'s picture out of. And here's something you might not notice. We have a French press and a green coffee cup. And we see that very same French thing at Havenhurst in the same arrangement. There seems to be a big connection between Mulholland Drive and Havenhurst. Adam confronts his wife, if you can call, plaintively calling for Lorraine and then just staring like an idiot, confronting. So I think Lorraine, who is Lorena de Rosa, the original name of Camilla Rhodes, is representing 2 people here because of the 2 colors. And this guy has an old-timey way of talking, Gene Clean, just like the cowboy. I think it is the cowboy because notice he's hiding his hands. So we have 2 situations maybe going on here. Right now, she's looking like Aunt Ruth with her black tap pants, and we know Aunt Ruth was an abortionist. In the garage, which resembles Heavyset Woman's office with these shelves, Adam selects some pink paint. He makes a mess of the jewelry box here, the sparklies that remind us of the ingenue, and over here is something that kind of reminds me of the pop top of the Coke can. They struggle, and something falls out. It's triangular and glittery. It may be salvaged from this wreckage. There's another shot. Notice how Adam is between her legs. So I think this is the representation of a failed abortion. She struggles, she yells, "You're hurting me, you're hurting me." The cowboy comes out and punches him. And Adam just does not resist. Adam doesn't really say a word for the rest of this scene, like many of the fetuses we will meet in this movie. Gene has this emblem on his shirt, a pink veined, erect sort of thing emerging from shrubbery. Can't imagine what it means, but he seems like a dick. And there it is on the back as well, with 2 yellow Christmas roses. Yellow is death, and of course, roses are De Rosa, so perhaps the De Rosa twins, and perhaps this is also Luigi. There you go, Christmas roses. They have 5 petals, and they're also on Blue Hair Lady's extravagant gown. So the reflections are doing a weird thing. The lining of his suit has this weird shape that reminds me of reaching dark hands to drag him down. It's kind of like this, or maybe I'm just seeing too much in everything. Adam barely defends himself. In fact, he doesn't defend himself at all. He is astounded and betrayed, although somehow his glasses stay on throughout the entire melee. He leaves quietly. You can see this plant with things like stalks like blood flowing upward. If he's upside down coming out of somebody, that would make sense. Now remember, if your mom gets beat up, you get beat up. If your mom drives a car, you drive a car. And it looks like he's not gone yet. Again, he's one of the 2 characters, Rita and Adam, They have blood on their face. And I think that just represents the deaths of the fetuses, the untimely deaths. They don't look triumphant, they look regretful. And something about her pose reminds me of this, although they're not at all the same person. And her earrings are sort of like Coco's in that they have a jewel separating pearls. So those are like her stepchildren, I would say. But definitely she has the white bracelet of Aunt Ruth and one pearl, which is Billy. Oh, geez, poor Adam. Why don't you defend yourself, dude? Did you notice his clothes look just a little oversized for him? He's not an adult. He's an unborn child. And David Lynch is trying to get us into the head of that child who is being aborted and has no idea why they are being beat up and cast out by somebody who shouldn't even be there in the first place. Adam Jr. drives off in his Boxster, still safely encased in the body of his mother, but he will soon be in a car accident and end his life in apartment 16 at Sierra Bonita with Aunt Ruth. Toward the top of the screen is an empty red wheelbarrow. The Japanese gardener Taka watches him leave. Taka wears a hat, a white jacket, brown pants. The whole aesthetic is Japanese. So, maybe all those Asian influences at Havenhurst are actually Japanese. What do white lilies mean in Japan? Because surely the gardener is the one who cut and placed all those flowers. Lesbian love. He seems to know a lot about what Camilla has been up to. So I feel like in the series of scenes at Mulholland Drive, we have a couple different situations. First of all, we see Luigi with Camilla, as he surely must have been since she's having his daughter. But we also see Lorena representing both Aunt Ruth and Camilla with the cowboy as they abort Adam Jr. So that cannot be Luigi. He does not believe in abortion. Betty removes a black funeral hat from a blue box, and the girls hide the money. In the back, you can see Betty's pink robe already hanging in the closet. Betty turns out the light in this very costumey closet. And the girls agree not to talk about it. Rita is in a new outfit that surely must have come out of that closet. So whoever's apartment this is looks like Rita is in their pants. And here is, from another scene, a better view of that closet. This brown and white thing could almost be the cowboy's coat. That's definitely Aunt Ruth's ugly beige suit. There is a Chinese robe, looks like with fringe. The pink bathrobe, a blue blouse, that's probably Betty's, and a red and black item. Interesting. Betty seems to be concealing a small black funeral hat along with the money. What are they agreeing to conceal? The girls approach Winky's. The reflections in the windows streak them both with red, another great piece of work with reflections. In front of them is some white narcissus, which apparently means new beginnings and hope. Not what I would think narcissus means at all. And over here to the left, am I imagining it? Or is there like a vicious little foo dog over there outlined in green, like the wicked bitch of the West? Betty is at the telephone. You can see the key has been removed. She says she'll call the police. Rita nods, hopefully. Notice SOS down here, like on the coffee cup. And this tells her to stop. Every time she came to check for the blue key, she could have stopped and called the police, but she did not. Betty rubs her hands together. She seems to do this when she is apprehensive about what comes next. She did it on her arrival to LAX. She did it right after the first audition and before the real audition. Rita also does it just before she sees the horrible scene at Sierra Bonita. But why is Betty doing it now? I think it's because it's time for her to confront and be confronted by her mother, Betty, the perky waitress, and it will be difficult to explain what she has done to the woman who sacrificed everything for her. The blue roses for the Blue DeRosa orphans are between them as they discuss what to do. This is Barry Kay's concepts, which was live rich. So I think they're being encouraged to do the right thing. But as we know, Betty probably won't. The perky waitress is very attentive, especially to Betty, but she hands the check to Rita, and the check says, "Please pay cashier," and it's to Co, which could be Coco, and then cross. So Rita owes Betty something, and she is being reminded.
Diane Selwyn.
Yep, Rita looks right at Diane and calls her by her name. Rita shushes Betty, and Betty does not look very happy about that. And when they go home, Betty storms in the door. You see her look at this painting, and this is that persona-like blending of the two faces. And she slams Rita against the wall. Yep, that little bang you heard was not the door. It was Betty shoving Rita into the wall because she doesn't like being shushed. Kenny arrives to mete out justice. He calls for Adam, thinking Adam will be here because he surely died in the swimming pool, just like Luigi did. But no, he did not. Luigi sits silent and motionless in the back of the vehicle, which resembles a funeral hearse, and Kenny strides forward. Who is Kenny? Well, he's tall, broad-shouldered, young, strong like a bull. His very name means handsome, and I believe he is the persona of Luigi. Notice they have their hands in the same position as they adjust their suit. He stands in the door, and in the script, he breaks all the golf clubs. And I think that's because that's what killed him. You can see there seem to be fewer golf clubs, and that big wedge-like one is missing. Yeah, this thing. You know, it occurs to me that all those lilies are symbolic of golf clubs. And we're supposed to notice that one is missing. Suddenly, Lorraine leaps on him from behind. And I think that's Camilla in this scene. And she has the golf club there. And whenever you see that, that's an indication that the golf club is in play. And it kind of reflects this scene where Joe is dragging Heavyset down the hall. Luigi punches him, punches Lorraine. He is victorious over them, but that is just his retelling of the tale. He can't believe this long-haired Ponce and a pregnant woman managed to kill him, but they did.
What is it, Cookie? I'm sorry, Mr. Kesher, but there seems to be some problem with your credit cards.
What? I pay you cash, Cookie.
Yes, sir. Two guys from your bank came by.
My bank? How'd they know I was here?
I don't know.
What'd they say?
I'm afraid they said to tell you that you're maxed out at your bank and that your line of credit has been canceled.
The scene opens with a shot of a sign of the Park Hotel. But wait a minute, what's that up on the wall? That looks like a call button. You know, this whole movie is filled with places like theaters and hotels where people wait silently in ranked rows, kind of like funeral homes or hospitals or morgues. I think Adam is in the Park Hospital. Cookie comes from the depths. He knocks 8 times, very low on the door, like he thinks Adam might be lying down on the floor or something. He opens the door, not Adam, and Adam is right behind the door like he's in a very shallow closet. And who is Cookie? He's got the full facial hair, and he knows a little Spanish, like he might if he had a stepmother by the name of Gonzalez. Cookie is a nickname for a cook, who is somebody who roasts meat on a flame. I think that is Joe. And yes, he's wearing the white shirt of a Castigliani. Maybe he moonlights for them in the hospital. He shuts the door on Adam, much like the garage door shut by itself on Adam Jr. When Adam enters his room, there's a brief shot of these weird straps sticking out to the side like in defiance of gravity. And then there's this metal frame around the door that seems very odd. You know, I think that's a gurney turned up sideways. Adam makes a phone call to Cynthia, who he calls Doggy. Most of you don't know, but Doggy is an orphan calf. People hear doggy usually. The picture on the wall is of the Virgin of Guadalupe, a mother who is always with you, who found Castilian roses in the snow as one of her miracles. Looks a bit vaginal. The couch reminds me of the curtains at Havenhurst. What is Cookie trying to inform Adam of with his rather somber delivery? Let's translate.
Sorry, brother. It is my duty to inform you. You're dead.
I didn't believe him, so I made a few calls.
And?
You're broke.
Yeah, but I'm not broke.
I know, but you're broke. Where are you?
I'm at Cookie's downtown.
Do you know somebody called the Cowboy?
The cowboy?
Yeah, the Cowboy.
Did you notice that when Cynthia asked Adam if he knew the cowboy, he didn't answer that question? That's because he knows darn good and well who the cowboy is. And he knows the cowboy will always help him out. I wonder if Cookie killed Adam. Here's his persona lurking around Mr. Roke, who ordered that everything be shut down. And there Cookie is in the hospital lurking around Adam. Well, folks, that's it. The end of Quasi-Reality. Everybody's dead, and we will proceed to judgment in the next episode. Will Adam find a solution? And is Diane equal to it? On a personal note, I would like to dedicate this episode to my redheaded Aunt Edna, who was recently buried in Madison, Wisconsin. Part of her legacy to me was this thick gold ring. My aunt was a vibrant, enthusiastic woman who embraced life on her own terms in her youth. She was a competitive roller skate dancer. She was enthusiastic about everything in life. She helped many and harmed no one. The day before the funeral, I took a tour of Epic Systems in Verona, Wisconsin, and I came across this green couch, a symbol of debts unpaid, surmounted by 3 crescent moons of Diana. And I wonder if this movie is not trying to tell us the clues to our duty and fate are all around us, if only we pay attention. As events overtake us in Los Angeles, home to many diverse cultures, I remember my Aunt Edna, her long, fulfilling life, her peaceful death. May we all be so fortunate in the days to come.